like is it recording? Yeah, there we go. Now I see the red button. Recording has started. Okay, so tonight, again, welcome, by the way. We're going to start talking about, we're going to cover cost-benefit analyses from a technology perspective, okay? Because you can do CBAs about marketing and a variety of things, right? These are decision tools, right? To make informed decisions, on purchases and, a variety of things. We're going to cover that. That's important, okay? The different types, I even go into some different types of templates, followed by, we'll go into then the risk briefing, okay? Discussions, okay? Go into the types of the formats, the messaging, the audiences, and all of that. I go into a great deal more detail than I did at the beginning, right? I start you guys off kind of the basics, and then we start peeling back the layers, right, and go deeper and deeper. This one's going to go deep. So, and then after that, we'll navigate to the MS Teams and go into the ITIL, where I posted the ITIL. So I'll have one of you actually navigate to the channel, because I don't really feel like reposting it. So, you guys can search on it. We'll pull it up. We'll do a live and go into where I posted the ebook on ITIL. We'll pull it up. We'll also make sure that you guys have access to those ITIL templates. Those ITIL templates were not cheap, okay? Those cost money. So again, that's a complimentary something that I give to you guys too, to take with you. Don't take any of our templates that have Cyvergence or even formerly Chrysalis branding, right? Because any of the data that's on there now has become sensitive. But those ITIL templates, the ones in the zip file, you can take those because those are blanket. Those are blank, right? And you can use them for everything, anywhere from Agile to the service delivery catalog to everything, okay, that we use in industry, okay? Those are skeletal templates, right? You can make them a lot prettier, obviously, but it gives you a really good idea. For the project management stuff too is in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. But we'll cover that tonight because I want to make sure you guys all have it right before you check out, right, of the program. All right, so anyways, I think I talked enough, kind of killed enough time. And again, if we have any stragglers, awesome, okay? I'm not really going to be watching the chat as much. I'll look at the end for questions. So if you have a question, like put a Q on it, put Q and then colon. So I know it's a question. I think there's a Q&A aspect here too. I think there's a Q&A area. If not, then just put a Q in front of it. I can't find the Q&A section. And then we'll definitely cover all your questions for everything at the tail end of these briefings, okay? So I appreciate you all. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and minimize that. Okay, all right. So what is a cost-benefit analysis, right? So, wise managers, right? You don't really have to be, well, I say wise because, we perform cost-benefit analyses to assess all the potential costs and revenues a company might either receive from the project or have to spend on the project, right? And the analyses, these results help us figure out whether the project is suitable for an organization, or if we need to increase or decrease the cost to make the project viable, right? Because everything turns into a project plan. You purchase technology, it turns into a project plan, right? Because you have to staff it with people, okay? Short term, long term, all these things, right? So when we talk about managers, right, who else should conduct a CBA? Who else do you think? I'm just vocalize it because I'm not watching the chat.
So anyone that is trying to propose any sort of technology, hey, I think we should use this tool. Well, how much is it going to cost relative to how much to the work it is going to do?
Excellent. Yep, excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Troy. And Troy has done a cost-benefit analysis, right? So he knows 100%. So he did that as part of the one of the program, but we were looking at like VPN solutions and a variety of things. So he's definitely got some experience. But I'm going to go deeper dive on it too tonight. Okay, so but we're techies, right? So why should we care? Isn't that just management's responsibility, right? Why should we care? Why does it matter?
Well, Go
ahead.
It's our responsibility to convey the importance of whatever we're trying to sell to them, the idea. They may be the ones to pull the trigger, but we have to convince them. it's important.
Well, and absolutely, absolutely well said. And the other thing too is, right, remember what I said before. Security is not a profit generating portion of the company. Well, unless you're a consulting firm or, you're developing a security product, right? But 9 times out of 10, okay, every other organization, security is almost like the life insurance aspect, right? It's like the what if kind of thing. And they put in bare bones things, and you'll hear a lot, well, this is the way we've always done it, so why should we change it now, right? Why should we purchase this technology or add this additional person, right? You have to put in a really good justice. You're not selling security, but you're selling the reason why that organization has to take from a profit generating side of the company to now staff and put in an area that is not profit generating, right? Because businesses grow by money, by profit. So when we brief, we have to brief it at the businesses, the bottom line up front, right? How much is it going to cost and why? Why can't we use something internally, right? Save money, so you're going to need to really have to put a really good, a much stronger justification, believe it or not, to budget something in cybersecurity. I'm not going to lie. You would think it would be an easy sell, right? Security itself is not the hard sell. It's the adding something else, especially when they've always been doing it that way. That's like, I call them the legacy SMEs, the legacy subject matter experts. They're the legacy SMEs on the old way of doing stuff, right? Doesn't make it right, but somebody's actually made a living off of it and actually put in processes and everything else, right? So that's the way it goes. That's what you're going to encounter more so than anything, to be quite honest with you. And there's modernization stuff, but there's a lot of legacy stuff in there too. So you got to take that in consideration as well. And especially when you're pushing a modernization effort, of different things, different technologies as well. So then with that said, then how do we begin with our CBA? So where would you start? Anyone, do you have any ideas of where we would start when we're doing our cost benefit analyses? What would we do? Like, how would we even start? Where would we start? What would we do? Any ideas?
Figure out the problem you're trying to solve first.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Yeah, excellent, right? Yeah, exactly. What problem we're trying to solve? Yeah, that's a huge one, right? So what would we use to solve it? To try to conduct our CBA? What could we use? What would you do if you were told?
Create a list of the tools or the solutions that we can solve that problem.
Yeah, that's good.
List,
excellent.
And then start coming up with like the benefits of each one of those tools or solutions.
Perfect. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah. So, right, we compile the list, just like you said. Perfect. List all the costs and benefits of the product, right? We're trying to promote. So awesome.
The
Great
process
job.
is right there in the name. You have the cost. Okay, how much is this going to cost? What am I getting out of it? And then you analyze multiple costs and benefits to figure out which tool is the best possible answer. Because in business, there isn't a right and wrong answer usually. It's about the best possible answer and the most cost-effective answer.
Absolutely. And a tailored recommendation for that environment. Okay. That's important too, because let's just say we use something at FBI or Anthem or whatever, doesn't mean that same solution is the right solution for, company C or wherever I'm supporting now, right? Or wherever, so you have to take that in consideration. You have to be vendor agnostic and look at from a point of, how this makes sense, how this is good for cost and risk and everything else, right? So what type of costs then do you think are involved in a CBA? Let's kind of talk about that for a moment. Any ideas?
Probably variable costs.
Say that again, Benjamin. Say again?
No, please go ahead, Benjamin. You were talking first.
I was saying you're gonna look at the variable cost components of what you're gonna do.
Okay, fair enough. All right, excellent. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't hear you initially, so I apologize. I'm not watching the chat, you guys, so definitely just speak up, okay? Even if you talk over each other, that's fine. I'd rather have everybody talking than the uncomfortable silence. That's almost like a cold, -30 outside slap in the face. You know what I mean? I'd rather have the conversation. I'm just saying. Anyways, all right. And who else was chiming in?
I would say it depends on the cost to get the tool, the implementation cost, how much it would cost us to run the whatever solution we're gonna run in our company, and then maintenance cost afterwards.
Yep, exactly, right? Exactly. And breaking it down further, there's direct cost, right? Include basically direct labor, right? Involved in manufacturing, inventory, raw materials, manufacturing expenses, and a lot of other things, right? And there's indirect cost, and that could be electricity, rent, utilities, right? Overhead, also data center costs, right? All the kinds of telecoms costs and stuff like that, right? A lot of that stuff. Then there's intangible costs. That includes the customer satisfaction, impact on productivity, employees, right? All that. And there's opportunity cost. That includes like alternate investments, like buying a plant versus building a plant kind of thing, right? Do we lease also the data center, or do we build one ourselves, right? And then when we go into compliance, is the potential cost of the risk involved. We involve then regulatory risk, competition, environmental effects, and a lot more, right? So those are, by the book, the 5 types of cost attributes, right, when we talk about a CBA, okay? All right, so let's talk about the benefits, right? So, high revenue generation also from a new product, if that's we're building something or, in implementing something, there's intangible benefits like enhanced customer satisfaction, faster delivery, streamlined processes, improved employee safety, morale, etc. Right? A lot of those too, the collaborative type of environments we have, using Slack, for instance, Vice, MS Teams or whatever, all that comes into play. We were using Nifty PM, right? And initially it was okay, but then as we tried to scale it with the larger teams, it just wasn't effective. It was always down. So then we looked at other, right, more streamlined collaborative approaches to then communicate and all that, and everybody can upload. So we know. So yeah, we're at SharePoint, MS Teams, but it's working great actually. Go figure, right? So, and then of course the competitive edge, right, or market share gained, due to a newly made decision. Even the type of, we're looking at building, or we have 2 actually tools. So 2 software, right, pieces of software. One is an EdTech solution. The other one's, the IoT IPS, right? So what types of code? I mean, all that. Where are we going to put it? Because we have a DevSecOps environment, right, in AWS, right? 2 different environments. We're building it, testing it, right? All that other stuff, pre-prod and prod and all that other good old stuff. And then who has access to it, right? And a variety of things, right? So, do the competitive market analyses also when we're looking at developing also new products. So that's also part of a CBA, right? So, there's lots of different perspectives in which to utilize, right, in this regard. So it's not just a narrow focus, tunnel vision kind of a thing either, okay? So, okay, what's the next step then? What do you think is the next step then? We've developed our list, kind of got attributes we want to a certain degree. But what do you think the next step would be?
To shop around, see what products offer what we're looking for.
Exactly, right. The biggest thing, the next thing is the dollar amount, right? So we need to start assigning dollar amounts to each cost and benefit, okay, to compare the values. We can effectively conduct this analysis with actionable cost benefit analyses, right? And the templates we're going to actually discuss in the next slides, because I'm going to pull different types, different views and things, right? So that's important too. So here's an example, right, of, facilities upgrade, the human capital, right? Insurance, internal activities, a variety of things, right? So it's lots of different ways to slice and dice, okay? And you can get input from the stakeholders too. They're going to be involved in this too, because you don't realize that when you're looking at maybe it's streamlining a process or introducing new technology or whatever, right? It has a downward effect sometimes, or an upward effect on the people in your environment, right? So you need to take all that in consideration. It's going to make something harder for people. Just because you want it doesn't mean another team is going to benefit from it, right? So look at it from a holistic point of view and all the different stakeholders involved in the process, that's important. So Here's another example, right? So economic feasibility, right? So when do we conduct that then, right? So in this particular context, okay, we would look at the steps of the investment selection and then prioritization process as, you know, when we're supporting the economic feasibility analyses, okay? This type of cost benefit analyses aims to measure, okay, whether the strategy we're looking at is viable or not from an economic perspective, in addition to demonstrating whether or not it's profitable, right? So this is another type of cost benefit analysis you may be asked to conduct. And I say that because many times we're working with the business teams too, right? And they don't speak tech, they speak business language. Same thing with C-suite, right? A lot of them aren't technical at all, okay? They have MBAs, but that doesn't make them techs, okay? By any means. So then we get into, now these next two slides are more familiar. These are what I use, okay? These are examples of what you're gonna see most oftentimes, you know, different variations, of course, of the flavor, but you get it, right? So this is what I see in industry mostly when we're evaluating technology. So take a moment to look at it and look at some of the project development costs and, you know, these different line items here. What else would you add on this table, perhaps, that maybe is not here? What else could we add here? You know, this is standing up a small doctor's office. Let me give you some context. Set up a small doctor's office, right? For, let's just say, a staff of 50 people. Okay, to take in consideration the doctors, the nurses, right? The front desk people, you know, the patient rooms, right? The front desk, right? All these things. Maybe even some BYOD devices. I don't know. I'm just saying, right? So you have to take a lot of this stuff in consideration. You know, customization, training, the workstations. Are you gonna use mobile tablets? You know, maybe a kiosk type of a deal. Maybe iPads, right? When people sign in, right? Sign into a client portal, et cetera. Check in, check out. Maybe a front end kiosk. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's lots of different ways to do this. Obviously, we need internet access, so that has to be factored in there, right? So, you know, and then we look at it from the gross annual cost, you know, initial, year 1, year 2, year 3, et cetera. Is it scalable also? Okay. You know, and a variety of things, right? So provider benefit, transcription, cutback, you know, managing charts, you know, all these things, right? So this is setting up, let's just say, like I said, a small doctor's office for context, as an example. Okay, so those are some things you could look at, right? This is another example, you know, looking at a piece of software we're going to include, right? So we look at the software licensees, right? Sometimes it's, you know, $8 per, or sometimes it's the only thing they'll do is a minimum. Sometimes it's a minimum buy of like 100, right? And sometimes they won't go any less than like 10 or something, or even less than 100. Sometimes it's just enterprise only. Is it an enterprise license or is it a per user license, per seat, right? Thing too. To take in consideration training, role-based training for all of it, okay? Even for your admins, okay? Administrators, and be setting it up. Cost of maintenance and all that. Hardware setup, if there's, you know, hardware. The mobile server, you know, support and maintenance, you know, over time, you know, production, you know, all these things, okay? So all that stuff needs to be taken in consideration. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
On some of these lists, you're listing benefits as like benefits both tangible and intangible, and I'm wondering how would you go about coming up with these numbers if the tool or service or whatever it may be that you're proposing isn't necessarily going to be generating profit or saving money, but rather anything else like a customer service tool, or it's speeding up a process? How would you go about getting these numbers?
Man hours. So, right. So like if you're cutting, excellent question, by the way. Excellent question and great observation. So like, for instance, if you are streamlining a process, okay, and you're taking in consideration, just like I mentioned before, let's just say there's 7 stakeholders in the entire process, right? And this is going to cut, you know, time by, let's just say 2 hours per day, okay, from just one team. Just say one team. Everybody else is kind of stays the same. It just automates it a little bit. But to one team, particularly that's been doing it all manual, it saves 2 hours per day, okay? Times however many people, okay? Your human capital, right, equals however much potential cost savings, right? Because you could take and factor in their salary, right? If you have access, many times it's contracts or whatever, salary. And and you do a per hour metric. And that is a phenomenal, like that is a really good number to use. Okay. When you're looking at it from that, you always take it to the man hours. Okay. Because we'll talk about risk. See, risk is not even on here yet. Right. So, and how do you factor that in? Right. So, we'll talk about that in a minute as well, but that's an excellent observation. And sometimes you have to be creative with it. You're not going to sometimes have exact numbers, and they are going to be, I wouldn't say fudged, but, estimates at best. Now, these initial costs, like the licenses, you're going to get that a quote. Now, I caution you because just like look at 3 SIM tools, let's just say Splunk, SolarWinds, and Logarithm, okay? Each phenomenal vendors, huge enterprise licensees, okay? Huge cost because they do based upon volume, okay? But I'm going to tell you, Splunk's going to give you the best initial quote, and it's going to deceive the heck out of you because you're thinking, oh, this is the cheapest. When in fact, you have to take in consideration, okay, initial cost might be low, but at year 1, as you scale, are you flipping kidding me? The cost is immense because they give you some savings, and they know that. They know that they're competing against other vendors. They know what the other people are, charging many times. Sometimes on the website, sometimes they have the insider people just go and get the information, right? The research. That's what they do. I'm not gonna lie. So, but with that said, be very careful with that initial cost. Look at also the terms and conditions in the contract. Okay, what kind of support, what kind of initial setup help, ongoing support on the back end. What does it include? What does it not include? Make sure you're testing it, right? Features, functionality, because, there's feature functionality and then there's limitations. There's no 100% solution. So if you're looking to replace something, remember, it's probably an 80% solution. There's no 100% solution. But what is it not doing, right? Like Jump Cloud. Jump Cloud's great, right? But we have a SIM solution, but we don't have a SOAR in there, right? It's very, it centralizes our logs. We meet the AU6 control governing, co-location and centralized management of our logs, okay? But, we can't really do some really solid queries in there. And I mean, we have alerts and stuff that we can set up and script in the back end, but it's not as nice and pretty as Splunk or anything like that. Splunk is immense for good reason, right? And they charge on volumes of logs. So look at that, I take that and consider, and look at meaning you don't have to do the Tim the Toolman Taylor approach either when it comes to technology. A lot of people tend to do that. They'll see a big, I don't know if you guys remember Home Improvement, that show, right? I don't know if you guys watched it or not. Years ago, it was funny as heck because they would go on there and they would be demoing, demonstrating, these, like whatever he said, right? But he was like demonstrating like the full on, like full power, everything, like full power wind blower when it blow them away or knock them back or whatever. You don't need all that power, right? Same thing with computers and technology. Look to see, are they meeting the requirement minimally, right? At least minimally. Best business practice, yes, is where we want to go, but sometimes they don't have the money to go there. So get them at least to minimum so that's no longer a risk. And then you can always continue to build on that, right? So that's the way you have to kind of look at it, right? So sometimes you have to be creative with it, but be as honest with it as possible. And even if your boss or somebody says, well, we want to use this technology, you do a security impact analysis, right? Is this going to introduce an unnecessary element of risk into the enterprise, right? That we don't need? Might be nice, but let's look at something else. Also, is there something else we can use internally, right? Instead of actually having to go buy something else. And many times there are, okay? Other things you're using, you just don't realize it has all the full-on features and functionality, right?
Actually, I had one more thing. Could we go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Previously?
Sure, absolutely.
So, in your experience of presenting risk and cost benefit analyses and all these things to high-level executives, do you think that it is better to get the most exact number, this is what it's going to cost, down to the cent, or do you think that an executive board would prefer nice round numbers like this?
Yeah, when you can't get them exact, but be careful because sometimes there's hidden costs you haven't factored in. So I always round up. And I always have in a report, okay, I have, the exact numbers as close as I can get to include the quotes and correspondence and things like that to substantiate everything. But I will round up and I will tell them I'm rounding up just to factor in, just kind of give us a buffer zone in the event that is something else, that was overlooked or what have you, because it happens, we're humans, right? So that's what I do. I round up, but I have though the corresponding supporting evidentiary artifacts though to support all my research. That's important, right? So yeah, that's a great question. That's an awesome question. These are great questions, you guys. It's awesome. All right, so there's 5 steps of a CBA, and again, this is by the book, right? So the first thing we're gonna do is, identify the decision, right? Clearly define the decision or project that will be evaluated, right? The technology. We identify the goals and objectives of the decision, as well as the alternatives also that will be considered. That's why I always say findings, recommendations, and alternatives. You might want this the Toolman Taylor thing, but hey, I mean, look at some other options as well, other alternatives, right, for that customer, or even for you if you're using it even in your home. This is good to actually take even for your home when you're evaluating stuff. Identify the costs and benefits, right, like we discussed, right? So that second step, we need to identify all the relevant costs and benefits associated with each. And the cool part is, just like when we do pros and cons of things, we're looking at, we're trying to map it out so we can kind of look to say, okay, did we forget anything? Is it interoperable, with what we have also too, because that comes into play as well. You'll know that when you test it and you research. So not everything's interoperable with everything. Is it scalable, right? What's it like at year 1, day 1 versus year 1, year 2 and beyond, right? Knowing that you're forecasting, let's just say 100 more users, maybe 2 other multi-sites and other geolocations. Does it scale to that? Will it marry up with or be interoperable with the other stuff you're looking to use? If you're looking at wireless or whatever, I'm just saying, whatever it is, right? You need to take all that in consideration. Also look at the CVEs, right? Look at the CVEs to see what kind of vulnerabilities it has and all that other stuff. Is it worth the risk? The training too, because sometimes people know it, many times they don't. It's new technology, and you have to take that in consideration too, the ramp up time, all that kind of stuff. We identify all the relevant costs and benefits associated with each alternative, okay? We want to include both the tangible costs and the benefits, so the monetary costs and the revenue, okay? Revenue also that might be generated, as well as our intangible costs and benefits like environmental impacts and social benefits too, that we need to take in consideration as well. There's also like errors and omissions insurance and contingency planning and all that kind of stuff, right? You wouldn't want to be placing anything on a sandy land, and like even your data centers and all, do you lease, do you buy, right? All these things, right? It all matters, okay? You want to also then, like we were mentioning, assign a monetary value. So the third step, we assign the monetary value to all of the costs and benefits. And again, you can ballpark it. Note that it's a ballpark though. For those of you who have exact, put exact, but I always round up. It's important to round up and give yourself a buffer and just report on it. We want to estimate, okay, the dollar value of each cost and benefit. Okay, we can use market prices, surveys, and other expert opinions, right, to kind of compare. Also, if you have the experience in other organizations, you kind of know if something's costly or not, and all the other stuff. You kind of know basic. But again, each contract is different also and tailored to each individual. Also, it may not include everything. Like for company A that you just left, it might include the backups and all the other stuff. For company B, it may not, right? So maybe the quote you got doesn't include the backups. So make sure you're looking at that too, the fine print, okay? Honestly, because, look, salespeople will overpromise and underdeliver every single time until you start asking them questions, like the technical questions. Okay, remember like QRadar stuff? We were asking them stuff. It's like, it was cool and all, but there were certain things that, it did not do or whatever, but you start asking questions. The salespeople were all nice and they were great. I loved them. I think they were great, but I mean, they would have been great to work with too, because you definitely want good account managers too. Like for Jump Cloud, I don't know, what was it, 3 weeks ago went down, and I'm just now getting a meeting like tomorrow with Jump Cloud. Like no joke. That account, now John's been good, but he's the techie, right? It's the account manager that we had assigned, because that's another thing too. You can't just call the help desk, regular help desk. There's certain account managers that each, even like ISC2 and CompTIA, we have an account manager for each of those. I can't just go to anybody. We can't just call anybody, right? We're assigned somebody. And if that person is not, responsive, that kind of sucks too, right? Don't you agree? So I'm not happy about the whole Jump Cloud thing, because I'm not really happy with the account manager, like 3 weeks and waiting, and get to talk tomorrow, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'll keep you guys posted. You want to compare the cost and the benefits, okay? So we need to compare the total cost and benefits of each alternative. And that involves calculating the net present value, the NPV, or any other measures of economic efficiency. Okay, and you want to determine which alternative provides the greatest overall benefit. Be agnostic, you guys, completely objective. You might like something and be familiar with it. We like Splunk, but that doesn't mean it's the best solution for that specific client, right? For a variety of reasons. Then, of course, you need to make a decision, but make an informed decision, right? So we're the fact finders, represent the fact, right? So that the decision makers can make an informed decision based upon the fact, the cost, and the risk associated with it, right? So that's what we do, based upon the cost benefit now, and determine any features, sometimes it's necessary to revise the analyses to consider additional factors before making a final decision too. So research it, don't half step it through it, and then have, peer reviews, like do this as a team, do it yourself, but then do it as a team, because different perspectives, and of course, blind sides, right? You might have a blind side. It's like, I forgot about that. I didn't factor that in, kind of thing. So do it, try to do as a team and include as many people as you can in your research and analyses. So, did we leave anything out? So what's missing in those previous lists, those previous tables we showed? What's missing we did not discuss on those slides that's relevant to cybersecurity? What's a huge one? Where do we fit in the cost benefit analysis aside from cost?
Where's the risk?
The risk, exactly. So we have to conduct what we call a security or an enterprise impact analysis. Okay, will this technology, introduce any unnecessary element of risk to our organization, right? And then interoperability too, because if it's not interoperable, you can't use it anyways. What ports, protocols, and services do you need to enable and open for this to work? Are those going to be critical ports like high, like red ports, right? Basically something to where, other hacking tools are leveraged, right? Viruses are leveraged and things like that, right? So you need to do some research. You need to do some research. You definitely don't want to open up yourselves to any unnecessary element of risk. There's so many doors and windows you have to, close anyways. Why burden yourself with opening up any more you don't need to, right? So going back to good old NIST SP 85305. What control family do you think CBAs belong? Thinking back to NIST, right? We have several control families. What control family specifically deals with conducting security or enterprise impact analyses on any technology we are looking to procure or purchase? You can research it. So go look it up.
The SA
Five.
family?
SA family of controls. Yes, SA family of controls. The SA family of controls and also the DFARS, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, we're going federal. But yeah, the SA family of controls requires, okay, that, before we purchase something that we do a security impact analysis, okay? So, and many times it'll help when we're looking at something, or even your boss says, oh yeah, I heard about this, let's use this. Well, let's do an enterprise risk assessment first, okay? DoD, we used to call them certificates of networthiness to see, was it even appropriate to put on the global information grid? Like we'd even look at the code, we'd look at everything. Also, you have to factor in, where is it being created? Where's that code being created? Like Zoom? Why do you think we don't use Zoom? Like for our company discussions? Any ideas? For those of you I've taught, you guys know the answer, but Zoom, who owns Zoom? Who actually controls the code for Zoom? Where is it? Where are those servers at, folks? I'm not watching the chat. You can look it up. There's a front-end distributed company, and there's a CEO. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, but
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was saying,
You're good.
is it because the code is open source for Zoom? Is it
You're
open source?
getting, no, it's not open source, but look at the back end. Zoom is owned by 3 entities, okay, 3 different entities. There's a front person that is out of California, right? And it's publicly traded. So you would think it's an American owned and made, right? Because it's being traded on the stock market and stuff. It's publicly traded
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff, you would think,
China.
right? It's China. Yeah,
Yeah,
China
okay, I
actually
understand that.
manages the code on the back end. You have to take that in consideration. Like checkpoint firewalls too. Now they're approved. They're on the the NSA validated firewalls, but they weren't for a long time because Checkpoint. Does anybody know where Checkpoint is manufactured or made? The code and everything, where it originates from? Go look it up. Go look for Checkpoint, like Checkpoint firewalls, Checkpoint routers, Checkpoint anything, VPNs. Go look that up. Because you're going to have to start doing this, right? Just because somebody says they're just, anybody can actually spin up a Delaware C or an S corp. I was with, go
Checkpoint
ahead.
is in Israel?
It's in Israel, right? Tel Aviv, Israel. And for a while, it wasn't approved, right? Because it was overseas, it was foreign, regardless of whether it's not an ally or not. We can end up in a war with anybody, honestly, right? So, I'm just saying, they're an ally, yes, absolutely. But it wasn't automatically approved because they had to look at, who's actually designing the code, right? Because anybody can then import malicious code or whatever, listening, whatever, So yeah, something to take into consideration when you're looking at stuff is where is it made? Who's actually controlling the code? Because who controls the code really has the keys to the entire kingdom and can be listening in or doing whatever on your devices, dropping malicious code, backdoors, whatever the heck they want, right? So yeah, and look at the code too. Look at the code. You won't be able to run like static code analyses on a vendor that's not yours. Like if it's Microsoft, for instance, you can't take that code through a static analysis, but you can dynamic analysis, like when something's running. Like we use HP Web Inspect, right, to look for web applications, web design, etc. We use that everywhere. DoD, USAID, USAID, how they like to say, State Department, FBI, shoot, even Treasury uses HP Web Inspect. Okay. So my point to that is, but they, it's stuff, and yeah, part of it we design, et cetera, part of but HP Web Inspect is good to look at web applications, the code, right? HTML, CSS, all that kind of stuff. Look for, robustness of code, but then it also looks for, SQL injection, all that kind of stuff in the code, which is super cool. It has it's got a propensity for a lot of false positives. So you really have to work with developers, the web designers, the web developer, on what's legitimate finding and what's not, right? So it's a lot of sifting through the fog to get to the actual stuff, but it's pretty effective though if you use it right. So in conclusion, right, for CBA, what's the goal, right? The goal, right, is to provide decision makers with a clear and objective way of evaluating the trade-offs between costs and benefits and risk, right? And to ensure that they are making informed decisions that maximize their overall welfare of the company, of the people, processes, and technology, right? So through quantifying both the costs and the benefits of a decision or project, the CBA, if used correctly and not half-stepped, can greatly help decision makers identify potential risks, assess the feasibility of different options, and choose the option that provides the greatest net benefits. So, that is bottom line up front about CBA. So any final questions on that before we move on to briefing risk? And again, we'll open it up also for an all-encompassing question too for everything we discussed at the back end. So any other questions before we move on to briefing risk? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay, so now we're gonna get into briefing risk. Some of this will be review and a lot of it is gonna be discussion, okay? We're gonna discuss various methods of briefing risk. And like I said, some of it will be review, but I've got a lot of discussion questions in here, so. All right, so when do we brief risk? So let's walk through some of these questions, right? Who's responsible for briefing risk? Should be an F. Who's responsible for? Should be an F. Bugs me. All right, that's okay. I can't change it right now, but that's all right. So who's responsible for briefing risk? Is it the managers? Like who's responsible for briefing risk?
Whoever's doing the cost benefit analysis.
Team leads?
Okay, yeah, that too.
Team leads?
Say again?
Team leads? Managers? Team leaders? People, the person who exactly, like Troy said, run the...
It's anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good guess, but it's anyone. That's why I say that. And that's why it doesn't matter what level you are. right? Especially in cybersecurity, we're problem solvers. We identify a problem, we do a root cause analysis, right? If it's technology, then we'll do a CBA. But many times it's briefing risk. Sometimes it's ad hoc, briefing on, we just had an incident or whatever it is, right? That kind of thing. Or it could be as detailed as a PowerPoint. So we're going to go into that. So let's talk about what audiences do you think that we're going to be expected to know how to present to? Is it just senior leadership?
No,
Who
we have to
else?
present to everyone.
Clients,
Absolutely. Say again?
all
to ev-
clients. It's okay.
Yeah, clients. Yep, clients could be external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, your engineers, right, as well. Not just the business teams, but your engineers, your firewall engineers, your system administrators, your fellow cyber peeps, right? All that.
Mhm.
So,
Third-party contractors.
exactly, right? Contractors, exactly. Government, all that kind of stuff. Exactly. So what is important to you when briefing risk? So what you know so far, right? What's important to you, do you think, when briefing risk? What kind of attributes do we want to cover?
How it does affect us?
Okay. Okay,
To
that's a
make sure that
start.
we're clear with
Okay.
where and what it is that needs to get addressed.
Okay.
How ready
Okay, so
are
what's
we for the risk as well?
Okay. Okay. What about because so now let's talk about to management. So what is important then, do you think, is to management when we're briefing risk?
For decision making,
Okay.
Oh. I think probably the things that will fall in line with the company objectives or something, or mission, or
Okay, that's a start. So that's okay. We're going to break it down. That's the whole point of this training. We're going to break it down. This is awesome. Those are all good starter answers. What about what's important to the CISO, you think, in an organization?
Information security.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So, and then of course, what formats do you think we're going to use? Are we going to do high level or detailed? Do we use PowerPoint? How many slides? Or do we use a quad chart or report? How detailed or high level should it be? Okay, and when. So I'm going to talk about that, some of the strategies and when to use them, right? So we're going to kind of break it down. Because this, a lot of people struggle with, right? The majority of IT people are not extroverts by any means. A lot of people are much more comfortable. I can't even speak proper English anymore, but they're a lot more comfortable in front of a laptop than they are in front of people. Okay, I'll just put it that way. That's the average IT person. But with cyber, though, we have to just be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Okay, and we have to learn how to be comfortable with briefing risk, because it could be any time we're asked for an ad hoc report or a war report or whatever, right? So let's kind of break it down. So one of these methods that I always talk about is the quad chart. So when do you think we would use the quad chart? What's a good instance where this would come into play, you think?
Maybe for like a short briefing to a manager.
Exactly, right? You just had a high level, you looked in your Splunk dashboard and high level of failed login attempts. Not sure if a machine is down or not, so your boss or somebody comes in and asks for a quick status report, right? Give me a sit rep, situational report, right? Say, okay, what's the issue? Right now, nothing appears to be down. There was a high level of failed login attempts. We're looking at it. What's the suspected cause? We don't know that yet. We don't even know the impact yet. We don't even know the corrective. We're still researching it, sir, ma'am. We'll get back with you, right? And that's what you do. Do not lie. Do not fill in the blanks. Okay, because it's fact. Can't get around it, because trust me, the fact will be revealed and you'll look like an idiot if you just are one of those people that make things up. Just be honest. If you don't have the information, you're the team's researching or researching, and we'll get back with you with the answer. If you have it, great, then provide it. But this is really good because you can formulate this thought process in your head or even provide it, whether you list it in the email. Here's the issue. Here's the suspected cause, right? Impact and recommended corrective action and estimated completion date, or it's finished, it's done, right? Those 4 areas are incredibly impactful when you're briefing anybody at any time, honestly, about something, an incident. You're not going to have time to do a PowerPoint. We're talking about an incident, an indicator of compromise. Bottom line up front, this is what's going on. This is the status, okay? That's what you want to do, right? So that's when you use that. You can either formulate your thoughts vocally when somebody's asking you, the 60 or 90-second elevator pitch on the incident and the status, or like I said, in an email, or use the quad chart itself and attach it or whatever, or present it, that kind of stuff too. So, all right, so when would we use charts and graphs, right? So would you say this graph is, take a moment and look at the attributes. Would you say this is high level or detailed?
High level.
And high level, right? So is this something that executives you think would want to see?
No.
Look at the attributes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically, no, that's a good guess. Okay. But you definitely want to take an overarching view of our risk picture, right? The first thing when we log into the CISC stat, and I know some of you would just have the controls, and that's directly the controls, but when you look at it from the executive standpoint, it has this like the spider kind of web thing, and it's got how our risk picture then compares to the average industry, companies that actually are using CISC stat, and we're outdoing them, outpacing them by a long shot. Are we 100% compliant? No, we're not. Probably about 85% there. Okay. Now with jump cloud being down, our stuff, we're not watching it. So a lot of stuff we have continuous monitoring, it's not being watched right now. It's pulling the data, but it doesn't, we can have technology all we want, but if nobody's watching it, right? There could be anything right now, and there's nobody there really to do it because jump cloud's not going to do it, right? So that's on us. They provide the application. We provide the people to monitor it, our stuff, right? So you want to see the risk picture, right? The control compliance, right? The total picture. Then you can always, in the high level stuff, right? What it looks like, okay? In the red, yellow, green kind of format. They love colors, they love metrics, they love bar charts and pie charts and everything else. This type of thing is an appropriate, kind of a high level thing, right? Just the real quick and dirty on the high level risk picture, what it looks like for the organization. This is an example of ServiceNow, the GRC workflow that's in ServiceNow. Treasury uses GRC, built by ServiceNow. It's just workflows, but ServiceNow is selling it as, of course, a separate application. Brilliant on ServiceNow's part. Something that Treasury has adopted, okay? It's, again, just a different view, okay, different format things, but, CISC set dashboard, so it's different flavor, right, of things, right? So again, the different tools that you use are going to be different flavors depending upon what they've decided to use and the budget they have. Hey, you go to DOD, everyone within DOD, Defense Health Agency, and everyone, for the most part, can be used in EMAS. If you're Army or Department of Defense, if you're Department of State, you're going to be using Exacta. If you're Department of Commerce and Labor and Transportation, you're going to be using CSAM, which is the Department of Justice owned and operated and supported system, ANA. They do the same thing. It's like Google Sheets, right? Vice's Excel, right? Microsoft Excel. The same. The purpose is the same. Justification's the same. It's just a different flavor and different view, right? Different things in there, but the purpose and the justification is very similar. So when people ask you, well, have you used an ANA tool, an authorization, tool, right, for security to manage poems and things like that? You can actually say yes because you use the CISC stat. That's the, the self-assessment toolkit, right, from CIS that we use. It's free to us. So, if you know of other small businesses, right, that don't have a lot of money, it's a perfect opportunity because it's free to us. And it's great because we can manage our risks, our poems, all of it. We can have then a high level picture of what it looks like and then further be able to navigate through the prioritization then of that risk and the funds, money, and people and stuff. If there's a high level, let's just say if this was in this red area, let's find out why. Let's drill down and find. But I would ask, okay, what's the red? What's the red zone? What is that? What does that signify? Right? And should it matter? Should I concentrate there? What do you recommend? Okay, advisor, A, right? You're like the mechanic, okay? When somebody comes in with their car to be fixed, right? Maybe they only have like $1,500 to their name at the moment because they're, just got paid, but shoot, they have to pay their bills, right? They have $1,500 maybe, if they're lucky. They go in, it's like, oh my God, it never happens at the most opportune time, the most convenient time, right? It's like, oh my God, my engine light went on, it's kind of shaking a little bit. I need to bring this in and to find out what's going on, right? Come to find out, it's like your radiator or whatever. Now, if you don't fix it, then it's going to be even more of a cost, right? So, but maybe, when they look at it, they're going to do the problem diagnostics, right? The error codes and stuff, and look at it and say, oh, well, yeah, it's your radiator, but by the way, your brakes are bad. Definitely need to change the rear brakes, that's for sure, because, basically metal to metal, you can use your rear caliper or whatever, right? I mean, just saying, right? A variety of things. It's like, okay, well, I only have $1,500. How much is it going to cost me? Like parts and labor, right? And can you budget it out, right? Kind of thing. What's the highest risk? What can I do now to roll me off the lot with the money I have? That's the type of mentality you need to think like when you're briefing risk. Okay, even the Department of Treasury, believe it or not, okay, that has, Secret Service falls under them, IRS falls under them, right? A lot of that. They don't have a lot of money. I don't know why, but they don't have a lot of money. So, even with that, like right now on a part of it, on one of the smaller teams, one of the feds only have to be 7 feds there. There's only money in the budget for 2 people. So just think about that for a moment. That's government. Doesn't grow on trees. It's not going to grow on trees in another company either. And they're not going to just give you the money just because you want it, right? There has to be a justification. What else in-house could we use, right? That we could use, maybe turn on or whatever other features, instead of having to purchase something else. But anyways, this is synonymous. It's like your CISC stuff. So when you're asked about, an A&A tool, security tool that manages like, system security plans and our policy procedures and things like that, right? POANs, plans of actions and milestones, finding the risk, picture the cyber dashboard. You can say, yes, I've used the CISC, said, oh, what's that? That's the self-assessment toolkit, right? And I had these controls assigned, we were leveraging the NIST 853 Rev 5, the alpha, as well as the implementation guide, and also the CIS controls when we were conducting the analysis. So I'm definitely familiar with that. And I'm familiar with the various frameworks too, right? Risk management framework and a variety of things. GRC is like, and the CISO will tell you even in Treasury, it's like, so your GRC is 93% of everything we do. I don't know where he came up with the 93, but I think it's just something in his head. But 93%, because it's everything we do. I don't care who it is. If you're, turning on a configuration setting, it has to meet compliance. Like even the password strength has to meet compliance. When you change it, the frequency has to meet compliance. Is it 60 days or 90 days, right? Pursuant to your policy, right? Procedure, all that kind of stuff, right? It matters, right? That's why I drill into you guys the importance of GRC, and that's what we concentrate on first, because it matters. And you take that even when you're technical, right? Because whatever change you make or recommend has to comply with, it's got its compliance. All right, so with that, what audience do you think this is a visual for? So kind of look, I know it's kind of a little blurry, huh? But anyways, what kind of audience do you think? Would you say this is high level or detailed?
This one is detailed.
A lot more detailed, right?
Yeah.
So who's the appropriate audience in your organization to brief this detailed format, you think?
Maybe a manager.
Everyone.
This is for business side, the company.
Well, it wouldn't be the C-suite, right?
No.
So it's more of the engineer, the analyst types, right? Where you can actually talk in the details, in the weeds. Okay. Now this one happens to be on sales value, whatever. So, you'd provide then, if this is sales traffic and metrics, you'd provide the high level, like the dashboards, provide that to the C-suite. But the further analyses and the detailed analyses, the drill down would be then to the salespeople. Let's look then further on our metrics. Let's see why then it's coming up as, let's just say, I don't know, 5,000 units sold, but we only had a profit margin of like 2%. What's going on here? Or we had a loss of 2% or whatever. Let's go. And then you can drill down. And of course, that's then something maybe the sales manager can then take and further, deduce and discuss with his team, because that's who's doing the work, right? That's who is in the details, in the weeds, boots on the ground, day to day, right? Same thing with engineers, file engineers, things like that. You're going to get in the weeds with them. They're going to naturally go in the weeds. You will also go in the weeds, and you have to remember, again, what audience though is it, right? So what data attributes also, like your admin dashboards, right? You're adding, you many times you can tweak them. Formulate what your individual preference is or what other admin teams want. Okay, so Who should get read only also? Vice, administrative privileges, edit privileges of reports and dashboards, right? What kind of reports can you export, and to whom do you deliver them to? Getting also familiar with, normally when I get into an organization, I establish rapport with everyone. Everyone from senior leadership, middle management, the team leads, everyone individually, engineers, everyone. So I do that because, you're going to work together with them first and foremost, right? And, get to know their role, get to know their pain points, all of that, how they like to see things, any pet peeves, just everything, right? It's important. I get to know people, okay? And it helps. Because then I get a better understanding of how people like the information delivered. Some people like it in pie charts. Some people like lists. Some people prefer just the straight up reports and an email attached. So ask them. Don't just assume. Ask them. How do you like to, which format do you prefer to receive your briefings, your reports? Okay. Also the frequency. I have one government person that likes the daily stand-up, a weekly, like what they call it, a war report. We call it a weekly activity report. They call it a weekly operations report over at Treasury. Right. But what goes in there? Don't just assume, right? What different things do they want to see and in what format? Some people like reports attached. Some people like a quad chart. Some people like extensive stuff. Also for compliance for contracts, there's certain attributes in war reports that have to be maintained for record, okay, on behalf of that company, right? And it has to be managed with the core and stuff like that. So failure to do that then is failure to provide the deliverables as promised in the terms and conditions of that contract, okay? And they can be fined or whatever, or told, okay, we no longer want to deal with you. Should not meet in compliance. That's also a compliance metric, by the way. It's also an auditable artifact also. So there's a lot to contend with. So what do you think then this is an example for? This is an example of what we call a SAR, Security Assessment Report. It's just like one page. It just kind of did a screenshot of or whatever. It just pulled it off the internet. Okay, I'm not going to share with you any of my client stuff. There would be no way in hell I would do that with you guys, of course. So this is just something I pulled off as an example, okay? It's basic stuff. So, but this is the SAR. And so, does this belong in a PowerPoint? Does all of that data belong in a PowerPoint? How would you deliver this information to your client, do you think? What are some examples? And again, I'm not watching the chat, so take a moment to review it and then just make some recommendations. How would you deliver this?
A bar chart.
How would you want it to be received to you too? Oh, go ahead.
A double bar chart. Double bar for each site, because it looks like there is a remote site, residential construction, and Botswana, and all those are like threat profiles. We could set up like double bars per profile, and one will be for Pasco, one will be for PSG, and will be a bar chart.
Perfect. And then what would you do with the report? You just scrap it? What do you do with the report, you think?
I would keep the report that are mainly for high threat profiles. I would set them up in the next slide probably. Or
Okay.
they would be like a little comment. As I used to work a little bit with Tableau, so we used to do this little arrow and the little comment box for really important things. We can do that for high threat profiles, for example. Unless there was
but the
something
report,
important.
Right. Okay, exactly. Right. For quick access to information, perfect, and a PowerPoint or whatever. But the report, though, because the report is an auditable artifact too, you'd want to provide either a link to the, especially when we have in like cyber, like vulnerability reports can be hundreds of pages. Okay. So you'd provide a link, right? And then you can refer, because then you can say, I'd like to refer on page or whatever 85 of the attached report, right, or whatever. There's additional detail, and if you'd like to take a moment to look, or I can actually expand upon it or whatever. It also helps too when you get a question, because when you have the high level stuff and they're trying to drill down, it's like, okay, I'd like to point your attention to page 85, paragraph 3. Right. And then you pull it up. You pull it up on the screen. Right. So be prepared also to get questions in the interim, and just completely muck up what you would plan for your briefing. People will ask you like mid-sentence, what about that? What about that? Just answer it. It's fine. Especially if they're high level, you're not going to tell them do the after. I mean, you can say that at the beginning. I always do that. I say, I open it up with, many times I open it up with like the scope, because I reminded them of the scope. That's important too. Okay, who we are, our team, etc. We introduce ourselves, etc. I thank them for being there, right? And then I say, basically put like an agenda in the front kind of thing. This is what we're going to talk about, so they can kind of know the format of the meeting, if what that's going to look like. And then I say, you're welcome to ask questions during, but courtesy of time, right, for everybody here, I'd like to go ahead and get through the briefing, and then we can open it up for questions after. That's normally the way I do it, because otherwise it could end up being like a 3-hour thing if you let everybody like talk and talk and talk, right? So very easily, and I also go off on tangents, so therefore I try to stay as formal as possible when I'm briefing. I have to. So for me, anyways, right?
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So no, you're welcome. Absolutely. So, so when do we use then PowerPoint, right? So when's the appropriate? So we talked about quad charts, we talked about reports, right? We talked about different dashboards and things like that. When would we use a PowerPoint? How long or short should the PowerPoint be? Any guess?
Maybe 20 minutes.
I want to say 8 to 10
Ah.
slides.
Yeah.
15 or
Okay.
less.
Excellent.
It depends on what we're gonna present in the PowerPoint, like our risk. If we have like high risk or low risk, we would have like, I would see it like a 10-minute total, and have
Okay.
spend
That's a
more
good
time
estimate.
on spend time on more high risk items than the low risk, and
Okay.
mainly have like an assertive title and a graph more than text, because people can get bored with text and PowerPoints.
Okay. So how much time, if you're briefing to an executive level, how much time on average do you get with the executive team before they're called out of the meeting to either put out a fire, or even when you schedule an hour with them, right? How many minutes do you think on average you're really going to get with them?
3
5 to 10.
3 minutes.
Let's just say 15.
Okay.
It's on average
15?
it's 15. Okay. If you're lucky, right? And that's being courteous. That's being anyways, but you definitely want to rehearse and time your presentations, because even if it's, let's just say 6 slides, depending upon what you have on that slide, and for instance, if you're referring to a report, it could end up being a 20-minute briefing easily, even with 6 slides. So you want to rehearse and time your presentation when using PowerPoint. You want to also obtain peer reviews to view for accuracy of numbers, grammar, and white space, right, on the slide, right? You don't want it to like the whole thing wordy. Government is synonymous with that. Treasury is a lot better, actually. I like how Treasury is a lot better with it, but normally like Department of Defense, it's like splattered, like it's all words, like no white space on the thing. It's like, what the heck, man? It's like a book. You don't want to do that. Again, the details belong in the report, which is the supplemental, right, artifact that you're going to provide, okay, as part of that briefing. Show up the PowerPoint slides as the high level stuff, and then drill down and refer to that report when those questions are asked or when they arise. And of course the UI, what does it look like also? Font should be minimum 20 points or higher. Do you know why I say that? Why can't we just get away with like putting 12 or 15 on a slide, do you think? Who do we have to factor in for?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so on slides, the minimum you should go with font is 20, the size, not 12, not 15. You can go larger, but the smallest you can go is 20. Do you know why I say that?
Because everyone has to be able to see.
Yeah, and also everybody, people with disabilities, older people, all that kind of stuff. Even me, like looking at it, even if you're sitting in the back of the room and there's this large screen, and Google actually did a lot of research on this. So this is thanks to Google, but their research actually has shown that it's like the minimum you can go is 20 points. right? So that it gives the opportunity, even in a large room with even a large console, right? It gives the opportunity for the great breadth of people to be able to view it, okay, from afar, right? It's important. Also, be careful with, the font, the color schemes too, take in consideration, some people might be colorblind, right? The red, green colorblind. Do some research, folks, on people in your audience, okay? I mean, obviously if you're doing a TED Talk, you don't know everybody there, but you can kind of get a basic understanding, like especially your leaders, you're going to know, okay, or other people in that environment, you're going to know, and be courteous to them, right, in that regard. So 20 points or higher, okay? Know your content too. Know your audience, okay? Also have a backup plan, because print off copies. Yes, I said that, because I've been in places where you think everything's going to work right. Okay, go to the conference room, a conference room that you use time and time and time again, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work. Like it's powered off, or I mean, whatever, it's not working at all, right, or whatever, or an update happened and then it's crashed or whatever. So okay, be prepared. You can't just automatically change conference rooms because everyone else is booked. That's the only one that was available, right? This meeting has to go on. So, you're already there. People are coming in. So just adapt, overcome, and improvise. Have copies, at least 10 or 15. Well, if it's a larger, right? So it depends. But, at least have the copies for the people at the table, like the main people, and then a few, that people maybe can share or look on with each other. So you're not like printing off a whole like forest of trees or whatever. But, and then with the reports and stuff, you can do one. If it's a large one, you can do one and then set it in the middle of the table, whatever, that can be kind of passed around, and just point to and say, I sent this to you digitally, but since this is down, I didn't want to print off 100 copies. So, to be courteous for the environment, at least one, right? You always want to, have copies, because you never know. I don't know how many times I've had to brief from also the paper copy too. If you're unprepared, it's gonna show. Okay. If you're not there, let's say you're running late. Okay. Something happened. Oh my God, like you're still parking and you're trying to run up the stairs. Okay. Well, the show must go on. They're not going to wait for you, right? I mean, 5 minutes is one thing, but come on, man, into 15 minutes, you're cutting into people's time. So allow your team to go ahead and start without you. They should be well-versed in the information. Okay. Too, not just you. It should be a team thing. Always have an alternate person that can do it for you too, because you never know. It's always best with at least two people. Okay. And introduce each other, too. Should I include a talk, right? So should we include a talk, a table of contents, basically, or an agenda up front? You think? Yes or no? When you're doing a briefing?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? Because it introduces the content, it frames it so people can know, and they know, okay, I need to step out for this, but I'll be back. You said this is going to be covered too towards the tail end. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I have to go put out this fire, but I'll be back for that, right? Kind of thing, right? They can kind of then better plan it for it. Okay. Does numbering slides matter, do you think?
Yes.
I have numbers on these slides. Do you think it matters? Why? Why do you think it matters?
Because it would help, like, hey, as we can see on slide 22, we can easily go back. People can easily go back to slide 22 instead of just.
Exactly, right? Exactly. It makes it a lot easier for everyone involved, right? That's there, or even remote, right? To go back and refer back to. Yeah, awesome.
It also helps
All right,
match up with the agenda that you're supposed to be handing out.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yes, 100%. Yes, absolutely. Yes, great observation. Look, folks, we all need to be comfortable with presenting risks, the right metrics, the right data at the right time to the right audience. It matters. You can't ignore it. You can't get away from it. You will do it. Okay. This is a skill that all cyber professionals must master in order to be successful in our field, not just managers, but even engineer types. Okay. Even engineer types and the various levels, the various people, the audience. That's why I hone in on, yes, you need to be technical, all that kind of stuff, but you also need to be able to present. Okay. Just communicate, right? Communication. What did we say the entire time? Like when you guys were communication, right? That's the key, right? It's communication, part of it's presenting. Okay. So this concludes the training, cost benefit analysis and presenting risk. Okay, we're going to turn to the MS Teams channel for information that I posted on ITIL, as well as all those templates I shared earlier. So who would like to volunteer to walk us through the ITIL ebook and the ITIL templates, that zip file that I provided earlier in this program? And then we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to, because you guys are going to go find it in MS Teams. Okay, you can do a search by the way in MS Teams. So somebody find it, take a moment, and then you guys can, somebody can share out your screens, because I really don't feel like reposting it, right? It's a lot of data. So go find it wherever it was. Could be in a SharePoint site somewhere too, right? So, you know, somebody find it, and then we'll share it, and then we'll talk about it. Because ITIL is another thing that you need to master also. And I will say why when we pull it up. Okay, and while people are looking for it, okay, I'm going to take a bio break. So do you guys want to take like a 5-minute break? Take like 5 minutes, and then we come back if somebody wants to volunteer to kind of share the ITIL stuff, and then we'll talk about that too. Okay. All right. So like 5 minutes. It is, what is it? 6:16. I don't know. Let's come back at like 6. I'm gonna say 6:23. I'll give us a few more minutes. 6:23. Okay, like 6 minutes or something. All right. So see you back here at or excuse me, you guys. It's 6:16 for me right now. It is, shoot, it's like 10 something, right? East Coast. Oh my God. So yeah, let's definitely talk about ITIL, and then we'll wrap it up after that. All right. So see you back here in like 6 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a minute left on our break. So has anybody decided like who's going to share your screen?
I'm sorry, did you want the booklet or did you want the mega bundle to be shared?
Yeah, so we're going to go through the excellent, thank you, appreciate that. Apologize for the lack of clarity. So excellent question. So first we're going to share the ITIL 4 in a nutshell ebook, okay? I used to have this on the old website. I probably should put that back on there. I just don't like the colors. I need to change the color schema. I did update the Cybergens, but I didn't update the color schema. So somebody want to share? I mean, I have it up. I can share. I just thought, you know, put you guys to work too. Put you guys to work. Let's see. Any volunteers? Okay, oh my goodness. I'll just share it. And then some, okay, thank you. Thank you, Troy.
Let's see. Can you see that?
Not yet. Oh, there we go. Yep, there we go. Okay, so everybody needs to pull this down, okay? This is a really good ebook that I put together. It's just bottom line up front information. You know, basically, obviously in a nutshell, okay? There's different versions of certifications too to get. ITIL, okay, is basically our fundamental, it's a lot of templates and basically the framework, if you will, that we use. It's synonymous with the service delivery catalog. It crosswalks really well with the ISO 20000, which is service delivery. And it is something that if you ever worked for Deloitte, KPMG, Accenture, Ernst & Young, McKinsey, right? Any of the big fours, fives or sixes, they're going to want you to learn ITIL. So there is, you know, technical nomenclature that you can go to the NIST. There's a glossary in NIST, okay, for a lot of that stuff. But for ITIL, and there's certifications, and many times they're going to want to get you the ITIL like foundations. You know, it's a really good thing to have on your resume, right? You will potentially be asked to, you know, put together a service delivery catalog. You're like, what is that? Well, so as a and scroll down if you don't mind. So scroll down just slowly through the ebook real quick. You know, put what changed there. You know, there's different, like if you look at, right, so what it's focused on, the different processes, the key components, right? So read it, you guys, you know, read it, okay? It's really good information. And you know, just read this because it's all bottom line up front. It tells you everything you need to know basically in ITIL in like 4 or 5 pages. Okay, I did that strategically. Okay, so read it and then go get your ITIL foundations when you get a chance. Get your Security Plus first. When you're finished with that, also then get an ITIL. Get your Splunk foundations. Go to splunkbase.com, get that, and go get your ITIL. Okay. There's, you know, different dimensions, 4 dimensions, right? Because you're gonna need to know this is how we write, how we speak also at the big 4 level too, right? And so, you know, if you say, you know, ITIL, then they're more apt to hire you because you know the nomenclature then there too, you know, and the different templates, right? So, so let's go ahead and pull, you've got the dimensions, all that kind of stuff in there. So just read that, okay? Just please read it, honestly. It's got a lot of really good information and I put all the, instead of having you read like 105 pages or whatever, okay? I put it all in a nice digestible, you know, 4 or 5 page format. Okay. You guys can actually read. Now, the other thing then, okay, because it costs money, right? There's ITIL templates. So if you want to go ahead and open up that big folder of a bunch of templates, okay, this wasn't free. Okay. So I give this to everyone here that goes through my program, a complimentary bucket of templates you guys use. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. Now you can make them better. Okay, so these are all like, you know, a starter kit, if you will, but it covers everything. Okay.
Are there any
So it's kind of like,
you wanted to go into specifically?
Yeah, let's go through. There's project management. Let's go to like change management, for instance. It's like down there. I don't know, I think almost down at the bottom there, like 6 up from the bottom, I think, change management. Down at the bottom.
Change.
Yeah. You can open up any of them really. Yeah. So, and you can like, you know, open up just any one of these templates, right? So there's agile, there's everything. So, you know, and again, you don't have to recreate the wheel, okay, on these templates. There's templates for everything, you guys, okay? You know, so
Oh dear.
these, yeah, so you can utilize these, change control forms, change management plans, like all these things, right? And then all you have to do is just, you know, make them prettier is all, you know, put the branding on it with the, whatever company you're looking at, you know, you're doing, you know, make them nicer. You can even automate these things, right? So, you know, make them a digital form too. But again, you don't have to recreate the wheel. There's a whole bunch of information in these. So I would say go through, okay. Troy, if you wouldn't mind, go to the Agile. There's an Agile folder within there, if you don't mind. There's a lot of stuff in there, like the sprints, the PL planning, all that kind of stuff. Scrum stuff and all that stuff. Say again?
Agile templates.
Yeah, the Agile templates. Yeah. So
I'm in Agile templates. Any particular form?
And anyone, yeah, just open up anything. Anything you want. Because there's a lot
Agile
of really good
project plan
information.
template.
Yeah, that's fine. We can open that up. So when you're asked to put together information or a policy procedure or a form, refer to these first, okay? This is all project management 101, the agile stuff, like, you know, we don't really use waterfall anymore. It's safe agile methodology, okay? The scrums, all that kind of stuff, all that, you know, PI planning sessions, all that kind of stuff, right? When we build things and all that development and stuff like that. But anyway, my point is that you don't need to recreate the wheel on anything. There's a bunch of stuff in here. So I would say, you know, on occasion, you know, take, you know, about 30 minutes out of your day, every other day or so, and start clicking around in all that packet of templates so that when you do get somewhere to an employer and they ask you to do something or you have to put something together, this, you know how many man hours this saves? Because you don't have to recreate it. You don't have to do it from scratch. You can take it and build off of it, right? Put the branding on it, right? All that kind of stuff, you know? Anyways, I did this for you guys, okay? Because it helps out a lot. Trust me, it's a lifesaver and a time saver of unequaled value that I can quantify. Honestly, it's unquantifiable because it's very valuable. Does anybody have any questions on these? Because there's a ton of stuff. I mean, he just pulled up a couple of just random stuff, but you know, just you guys to kind of see stuff in there. A lot of people get stuff and then they don't look at it. It's like, are you kidding? No, it's a gold mine of information. Use it. I mean, don't use our stuff that's already branded. You know, anything that has, you know, but this, the zip file, those are fresh blank templates. Okay, with some dummy data in there, obviously, that you can manipulate, play around with. Any questions on this, you guys?
It's just a template showing you, hey, this is how it should look in theory.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to recreate the wheel on anything. You don't have to build anything from scratch. Not even scripts, honestly. Like SQL scripts and stuff, Perl scripts, Python scripts, you just Google it. Pull them down, modify them to your liking, right? But you need to test them. You know, you test the scripts and stuff before you implement, so make sure there's nothing bad in there. But you do quality control and stuff and testing. But yeah, but there's a mountain of information, okay? It's like the size of the Himalayas of a lot of these templates. And so use them, okay? Use them to your benefit, all right? Yeah, that's a complimentary thing that I do for you guys, okay? Yeah, and then ITIL. Does anybody know what ITIL stands for? Somebody go Google ITIL. What does ITIL stand for? What does it stand for, you guys? And what is ITSM? Remember we talked about ITSM when we was talking about the ISO 27001? So somebody go look up ITIL and then somebody look at ITSM.
ITIL, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's a lot of ready-made templates for businesses and digital workflows. Okay, and again, Some of these are manual stuff, absolutely, but then you can take it and adopt it, digitally too, to make digital forms out of it, which is super
IT
cool.
service management. I didn't actually know that one.
Yeah, there we go. See? So yeah, awesome, you guys. Okay, so again, read that. I'm kind of tapped out tonight, to be quite honest with you. I was up since like, I don't know, 4 o'clock my time, right? Because I work at Sport Treasury from like 4 a.m. to like, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock my time. And then of course I did meetings after that too. So it's, I'm a little bit tapped out. I'm sure you guys are too, because it's getting late over there. So any final questions or anything concerning me? Now let me go in the chat. Let me see if I miss anything. Thank you, Miriam. Thanks, you guys. Michael, all of you, thank you for sharing. Troy, yeah, thank you
And just
all
to
very
confirm,
much
all these names that are in here, are these are all dummies?
Those are all dummies. Yep, those are all dummies. It's like a mega load of information,
Just
like
confirm,
mega
these are
load
all
of
dummy
templates.
names, right? Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, they're all, yeah. So I mean, they're synonymous with, of course, whatever the template is, obviously. But yeah, they have nothing to do with Cyvergence, right? You can take these templates and use anywhere at any time, But again, don't wait till you get somewhere. Like, start perusing through this catalog of data. Like, it's a lot of information. And so when you are asked to do something, like I said, then you can. I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing a template. I don't have to recreate that from scratch. Let's go pull that in. It'll save you like hours, like days of work. Okay. Then all you have to do is just plug in the attributes, and all that other stuff. So, all right, you guys, anything else you guys want to discuss? Any comments? Snide remarks? I'm just playing. No. All right, you guys. I know everybody's tapped out. Okay. Any final questions in the chat? Did I miss anything? Did I cover everybody's questions? I hope. It looks like your mom is typing. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. No, you're welcome. I'm all about information sharing, and you'll see that in cybersecurity. We're about information sharing, right? Except for when it's sensitive information. When they're sensitive, obviously we don't want to share that, and that's why I pulled stuff, right? Like those examples, those I pulled from the internet, right? So I got some dummy, screenshots, because I'm definitely not going to be sharing stuff from the clients or anything. Yeah, no problem, you guys, no problem. Okay, one team, one fight. All right. So, okay, you guys, enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you on Friday. And for the shorter trainings, I'll try to do looms. You guys, I just didn't get to it. So I just have a lot, and I'm going to apologize. I know I promised you a loom, but I just didn't get to it. So I had a lot of other stuff going on. But this one I thought was more valuable in person anyway. So let's just start there, okay? And whatever I owe you on the back end, I'll just make sure that is recorded. But we've got plenty of time built in. Okay? All right, enjoy your night, you guys. Ping me if you need me. We're in the MS Teams if you need us. So ping us if you need us, okay? Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Night.
Thank
Yeah, no
you.
problem. Of course, anytime.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.